Good morning, Warzone kids. Beautiful day out on the trail. It's cold here in Vermont, about 3 degrees this morning. Had some freezing rain over the last couple days, and it's plumb froze up now. It's harder than a rock out there. Oh, but I was thinking about phrases like healing, and for a Warzone kid like me, that's a word I use a lot. Warzone kid is just my term for those of us who grew up in an environment more like a hostile war zone and less like a supportive nursery. I'm a child sex abuse survivor. As an adult, I live with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict, bulimic. Um, and the idea of a war zone is just gets at the way our psyches, our soul, who we are, kind of forms itself in the first, decade of our life, maybe up to puberty time, something like that. And if your experience as a child was one of chronic abuse and neglect, whether that abuse was sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, or whether it was homelessness or chronic hunger or being the wrong race of human being in the wrong place, where your life was like a constant low grade guerrilla war. If you come out of a childhood like that, then you're a war zone kid. And as an adult, I kind of think of it as a Jenga tower, like our psyche is a Jenga tower. And our Jenga tower kind of assembles itself in the course of our childhood. Our psyche kind of comes together in a way that lets us live in whatever environment we have to live in. That's why a young human being can become a shepherd or a sailor or a rabbi or a soldier or anything else under the sun, or a mother or father. Um, I don't mean the biological elements, but I mean what that's like as a human being. We That's our psyche kind of assembles itself, and if your psyche assembled itself in a war zone, what you're going to find, I think, as an adult, you can probably identify with this, is that your psyche is like a tall, leaning tower. It's like a game of Jenga toward the end when the thing is just teetering and tottering, and you got to be real careful whenever you're around it. That's kind of how I think of the job of us as adult war zone kids. Me as an adult survivor of childhood sex abuse, a lot of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and a guy living with, borderline personality disorder characterized by a chaotic attachment mechanism, wildly pendulum swinging emotions, a tendency to feel betrayed, hypervigilance in my mind, always trying to read the minds of those around me and try to figure out what's going to happen next. Because when I was a child, that was very important to me. As an adult, my task of healing, whether you like that word or not, my task of healing and learning to become who I am is putting that Jenga tower back into a solid shape. Right now is just swinging in the breeze. You got to take it apart piece by piece and put those pieces back where they go. That's how I see it. So whatever kind of word you want to use, that's what you got to do. And I spend a lot of my time in healing circles as a volunteer circle keeper for an organization called Hidden Water Circle. They run healing circles by and for those affected by childhood sex abuse. Um, uh, and it says right there in the name, healing circle. So the word healing is a word that I've come to embrace. Um, there's a certain resistance to that. I don't love the word myself, but I don't love the fact that I have to heal my psyche, but I do. It's just a fact of the world. If you had a broken leg, that leg would need to be healed. If you had a compound fracture to your skull, that would need to be healed. I don't even know if you can have a compound fracture to your skull. Sounds very bad. But that you would want that to heal. And so I want my psyche to heal. I want to learn and become what I am as a human being. But there's another phrase that I like even less than I like the phrase healing, and that's the phrase a safe space. Now, I know what that means now as an adult. I know what a safe space means. I still don't like the term. Uh, when I the next healing circle that I hope to be a keeper for was going to start in February. And we'll spend the first 3 weeks of that circle creating what you might call a safe space. Now, I don't like the term because very little of what happens inside the healing circle with 8 child sex abuse survivors spending a couple of hours together each week, sharing our experience. Very little of that is safe. It's all volatile. It's high potency. It's explosive. It ain't safe at all. The operation of taking those little blocks from your Jenga tower from the top and putting them back down in the bottom where they go, that ain't safe either. It's liable to blow up in your face and fall over. Well, when it falls over, you just start where you are. All the pieces are right there on the floor. You don't have to worry about it falling apart anymore. But it ain't safe. So I was thinking about that the other day, and I was reflecting on my, on my upbringing by a combat veteran, 3-tour machine gunner from Vietnam. And I grew up in a lot of stories about the military and the Army. And so instead of thinking of it as a safe space, how about this? We childhood sex abuse survivors in that green circle, don't worry about making a safe space. What we do is we make a secure perimeter. How about that? You want your healing to take place in a secure perimeter or out there in the wild where you're still vulnerable, right? You get the idea? We make a secure perimeter. We protect each other. We come together and we talk about it, and we talk about what we need so we don't freak out on each other. I got as long a list of what I need not to freak out as anyone else does. I don't need to hear criticism. I don't need to be evaluated. I don't love to be commented upon, really, in any way, shape, or form. Those things tend to put me at odds with my fellow human creatures, and I don't want to be at odds with my fellow human creatures. I'm one of us. In my green circle in Hidden Water, I'm just one of the war zone kids. So we talk about that. What do we need to create a secure perimeter for each other? We're all standing watch all the time. We're all guarding that perimeter. Nobody gets in that perimeter but us. Nobody's in there but us. No one else is allowed. No drop-in visitors. No observers. No UN peacekeepers allowed. The only people allowed inside that perimeter, those 8 war zone kids, those 8 child sex abuse survivors, are the 8 of us. And we keep it that way. We got our eye on each other's back. No, we don't. We all stand in a circle. Metaphorically, we're on a Zoom screen. We're in little squares around the screen like the Brady Bunch. But if you imagine us all standing in a circle looking at each other, we're also looking over each other's shoulder. Make sure there's nothing coming up behind any of us. We keep our perimeter secure so our healing can take place. How about that? We're alert. We're vigilant. We're mindful that I am mindful that I do not do things to make the perimeter unsecure. I do not do things that are going to lead to my other fellow child sex abuse survivors freaking out, because I don't want them to. I want them to be able to do what they need to do to learn and become who they are. And they do the same for me. They listen to me when I tell them these are things that make it real easy for me to freak out. And I really don't want to freak out. Sometimes it takes me a while to come back down to earth. I always get there. But sometimes I drop like a stone back to earth, and sometimes I flutter like a leaf. And it takes me a good long while to come back to my senses, to be where I am. But I'll get there. But it's easier if I know that my fellow war zone kids are looking out for me. I'm looking out for them. I care about each and every one of them. And it's takes sometimes a real act of will and acceptance to understand that those other 7 war zone kids I share that space with, I share that secure perimeter with, they feel that way about me. They care about me, same way I care about them. So we maintain a secure perimeter. No one's getting in. We can get out anytime we want. No one and nothing else gets in. Is that a safe space? It's a secure perimeter so that we can engage in the volatile, highly dangerous, highly potent work of putting our Jenga towers back how they go. That's what I think about safe spaces. Ain't nowhere safe in the world. But you can make a secure perimeter for yourself to learn and become who you are. So that's what I think about safe spaces. I don't care about them. But maintaining a secure perimeter, that's very important to me. So keep your head on a swivel, Pilgrim. It's a beautiful day. We can get in today's miles on the trail, cold and windy as it is. Today's miles are all we can ever get in. We got a long way to go, Pilgrim. We got a lot to talk about. Daylight's burning. Let's get a move on.